Jessica Jones is an American web television series created for Netflix by Melissa Rosenberg, based on the Marvel Comics character of the same name. It is set in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU, sharing continuity with the films of the franchise, and is the second in a series of shows that will lead up to a Defenders crossover miniseries. The series stars Krysten Ritter as Jessica Jones, with Mike Colter, Rachael Taylor, Wil Traval, Erin Moriarty, Eka Darville, Carrie-Anne Moss, and David Tennant. In addition to original characters, several characters from other Marvel Cinematic Universe television series and/or based on various Marvel properties also appear throughout the series. Overview. Key equals does not appear, is not yet confirmed to appear. Main characters. Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones, portrayed by Krysten Ritter, is a former superhero with the abilities of superhuman strength and flight, suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, who opens her own detective agency, Alias Investigations. By November 2014, Ritter, Alexandra Daddario, Teresa Palmer, Jessica de Gouw and Marin Ireland were being tested for the role of Jessica Jones, with Ritter having been auditioning since October and on the top of executive producer and showrunner Melissa Rosenberg's list for playing Jones, even when Rosenberg was earlier developing the series for ABC. The next month, Ritter was cast in the role. Ritter and Palmer had been the final candidates, with both auditioning opposite Mike Colter to test chemistry. Ritter stated that she read through Alias in preparation for the role and expressed delight in working with Rosenberg on adapting the character from the comics. Jeff Loeb stated, "Jessica Jones is based on a much more adult comic. The source material came that way. She has real problems with a number of things that she abuses, and we're not shying away from that. There's no tidying her up." Ritter called playing the character the biggest acting challenge in her career and praised the character development. She explained that when she was playing the character, she took a lot from the comics because she's so well drawn. We have some lines that are pulled from the comics, but then the script, she's as developed for television as she is in the comics. Ritter put on 10 pounds, 4.5 kilograms, of muscle for the role and trained for 2 months before filming began. Elizabeth Cappuccino portrayed a young Jessica. Series costume designer Stephanie Maslansky was assisted on the first episode by Jen Rogian, who crafted Jessica Jones' leather jacket, faded jeans, and boots costume. On Jessica's costume, Maslansky said she considers her clothing to be an armor and a shield and something that helps her maintain a distance from other people and privacy. It keeps her from having to deal with the rest of humanity in a certain sort of way. At least 10 versions of Jessica's jacket were made, which started as an Acme Studios leather motorcycle jacket that had any bells and whistles and any additional superfluous design details removed, while 20 pairs of jeans were used, with both being aged and distressed. Ritter described the character by saying that she goes about things in a very odd way. She's very rough around the edges, and dry and sarcastic and a total asshole sometimes. But I think at her core she's a good person. Comparing the character to Matt Murdock in Marvel's Daredevil, Rosenberg said, "They're very different kinds of characters. Jessica is about paying rent and getting the next client. She's dealing with a fairly dark past. She's trying to get through the day. She's not really trying to save the city. She's trying to save her apartment. At her core, she does share something with Matt Murdock, and he's a little more aware of it. That she wants to do something good. She wants to contribute to the world. But there are a lot of personality issues for her that can get in the way." Matt Murdock has been studying martial arts. He has extraordinary fighting skills. Jessica Jones is a brawler. She gets drunk. She gets pissed off and boom, you're down. She doesn't wear a costume. She doesn't have a mask. She's just who she is. She's an extremely blunt, direct person, and that applies to the action as well. Quote, Ritter was nominated for the 6th Critics' Choice Television Awards Best Actress in a Drama Series for her role as Jones. Luke Cage. Luke Cage, portrayed by Mike Colter, is a man with superhuman strength and unbreakable skin, with a mysterious past that Jones encounters in the course of an investigation and who changes her life immensely. In November 2014, Lance Gross, Colter, and Cleo Anthony were in contention for the role of Luke Cage, which was envisioned as a recurring role in the series before headlining Marvel's Luke Cage. Colter was confirmed in the role the next month, having signed on for the series and others without reading any scripts, and being drawn to the series because of its opportunity to have character exploration, which he felt was lacking in the MCU films. He put on 30 pounds, 14 kilograms, of muscle for the role. Rosenberg noted that because Cage has his own series to explore who he is, she represents him as a man of few words, rather than trying to say anything about who he is in particular. Colter was pleased and surprised that the audience got the character, as Luke was a man of few words and a lot of subtext, which was refreshing because we were going for this character in a way that said little but spoke volumes because of their past history together. I felt people got the subtleties. Quote, when Loeb described the character to Colter, he said that Luke doesn't have to try hard at anything. It just happens. Quote, this helped Colter form the character, along with using his opposite personal experience of having to work hard for everything. Colter also credited Rosenberg and S.J. Clarkson with helping him get on the right track with the character in the early episodes. Maslansky felt that Cage was also someone who wears his clothing like an armor, with his wardrobe consisting of t-shirts, jeans, leather jackets or an army jacket. Colter described the character as a neighborhood hero, very much linked to New York and Jessica Jones. He is a darker, grittier, more tangible character than Iron Man or Thor. He likes to keep things close to his chest, operate on the hush-hush. He has these abilities but he's not sure how and when to use them. Loeb said the character is important to the show, and he is certainly important to the story of Jessica Jones and who she is. It would not be Jessica Jones unless you at least understood how Luke affected her life and where she is. Quote, he also added that the series sees Luke Cage not quite in the middle, but in the early part of the middle of his story, and that Luke Cage allows Marvel to tell a great deal of story that happens before, and a great deal of story that happens afterwards. Quote, Trish Walker. Patricia Trish Walker, portrayed by Rachael Taylor, is a former model and child star known as Patsy, who is Jones' adoptive sister and best friend. She now works as a radio host. Taylor was cast in January 2015. The role of Jones' best friend was intended for the character of Carol Danvers when Rosenberg was developing the series at ABC, but was changed to Walker due to the changing nature of the MCU and that Danvers would appear in her own film. Rosenberg ultimately found this to be much more appropriate. It was better that Jessica's best friend was not someone with powers. It actually ends up being a really great mirror for her. Speaking about the character, Loeb said, what's most important is the relationship between her and Jessica, and how these two women who are, in some ways, sisters, in terms of their friendship, could be that different, and yet believe in the same kinds of things. That question of, what is it to be a hero and the responsibilities that you have when you have abilities, is something that brings them together, but also continually pushes them apart. I think we're very lucky to have Melissa as a writer because she really grasps the insight of what it is to have a friendship with a woman, and the way that two women can actually be competitive and friendly, and love each other and hate each other, and have a history with each other. Taylor added that Jessica was the first person to not care about the exterior parts of Patsy Walker or Trish Walker. She was the first person to see her for who she really was. Catherine Blades portrayed a young Trish. To prepare for the role, Taylor looked into a bunch of child stars and determined that the main source of their damage comes from feeling that they're loved for what they do and not who they are. The maternal, paternal or familial love or any kind of love is dependent on them being successful, making money, being sparkly, being famous, whatever the thing is, on the multiple alias Trish wields in the series. Taylor said, Trish has a number of them. I think there is a part of her that is alpha that actually, if she had the kind of abilities that Jessica had, she would probably be President of the United States in that world or the equivalent. She would take it as far as she could because she has that in her. Quote, Wil Simpson. Wil Simpson, portrayed by Wil Traval, is an NYPD sergeant who is very serious about his job. Traval joined the cast in February 2015. He felt that Simpson sees everything in black and white, and that justice can be served easily. An opposite to Jessica, who deals in a world of grey that causes the two to have friction between them. Traval described the character as reinvented and reshaped for the series from the one in the comics, where the character is known as Frank Simpson, as the comic character was a little bit too hard to handle. He was just a psychotic crazy guy. Quote, Hope Schlottman, portrayed by Erin Moriarty, is a student athlete attending New York University who is a client of alias investigations upon her parents hiring Jessica. She later commits suicide during Kilgrave's fight with Jessica. Moriarty joined the cast in February 2015. She called her character a polar opposite to Jessica Jones, describing Hope as an all-American girl, innocent and really earnest. Over the course of the series, the two form a bond, with Jessica becoming protective of Hope, due to a shared experience they have with Kilgrave. Malcolm Ducasse, portrayed by Eka Darville, is Joan's neighbor who struggles with drug addiction, resulting in his personal journey intertwining with hers. Darville joined the cast in February 2015. He stated that Malcolm was a new character for the series, though inspired by seed characters from the comics. He also felt playing the character with the drug addiction was pretty intense and dark, and that Malcolm's relationship with Jessica is like a flip-flop between victim and savior. Much more sibling-like than anything else. Quote, Jerry Hogarth, portrayed by Carrie-Anne Moss, is an attorney and potentially powerful ally to Jones, who hires Jones for cases. Moss was announced as cast in early February 2015, with her character revealed in October to be a gender-swapped, changed from male to female version of the comics character Erin Hogarth. The character was also made a lesbian. Moss signed on to the series after reading the first two scripts, having been pitched the character by Melissa Rosenberg. Moss described the character by saying that, she's fierce, she's strong, she's powerful, and she likes that power. She worked a few days every episode, which allowed her to grow the character throughout the series, while not knowing what the character would become as she played each moment, which she noted was how real life is. Moss reprised her role in the second season of Daredevil and in Iron Fist, comparing those experiences to her much larger role on Jessica Jones. Moss said, "You want to come in and have something powerful. For Jessica Jones, that's where I get to have that experience. With the other shows, I'm having fun." Quote, Kilgrave. Kevin Thompson, portrayed by David Tennant, is a mysterious man from Jones's past, who can control minds, and whose reappearance shakes up her life. He was born with a neural disease and was experimented on as a young child, which resulted in him acquiring an airborne virus that gave him his powers, and later changed his name to Kilgrave. Rosenberg stated that Tennant was the choice for the character when the series was originally developed for ABC, but he was unavailable at that time, so the production made sure to jump on him when the series moved to Netflix to pitch Tennant on this version of the series. Rosenberg and Loeb spoke with him, gave him the scripts for the first 2 episodes, which Kilgrave does not appear in much, and drafts of some scenes from later in the series, including of the flashback where Kilgrave and Jones first meet. Tennant was cast in January 2015. Maslansky, who originally was planning to custom-make Kilgrave's wardrobe, used many suits created by designer Paul Smith from the previous fashion season for him, as Smith was all about purple on his outfits. Maslansky added, "The designers wanted to find a place where we could utilize clothing in shades of purple, but not go so over the top that it would look silly and that he would stop feeling ominous or menacing." James Friedson Jackson portrayed a young Kilgrave. Tennant stated that Kilgrave is the classic character who is abused and therefore perpetuates abuse. "It was just a terrible, horrible cycle." Loeb called Kilgrave a terrible man who doesn't see himself as terrible, and compared him to Vincent D'Onofrio's Wilson Fisk in Daredevil, saying, "There are going to be times watching Daredevil when you're uncomfortable because you're not quite rooting for Matt. You're kind of rooting for Wilson. And it's the same kind of thing you're going to find in Jessica. There's going to be moments where some of the things that she does is pretty questionable. And some of the things that, when you learn about Kilgrave's character and the way that David Tennant plays the character, it's really extraordinary." Tennant noted that at first the idea of mind control seems quite a rather splashy kind of comic book idea, but that in reality, the idea that everyone should bend to your every whim and that no one should ever contradict you, that you can have whatever you want whenever you wanted it. It's rather aspirational and rather desirable at first glance. But the fact of it is then rather horrifying, because you could never have a genuine human relationship with anyone. That starts touching on what kind of personality that would create, what kind of person that would make you, how that would pollute your worldview." Quote, recurring characters introduced in Season 1 equals Pam equals Pam, portrayed by Susie Abromate, is Jerry Hogarth's assistant and lover. Abromate worked with her manager, who is gay, to portray Pam as a lesbian, and created her own backstory for the character. This included childhood trauma, continuing with the series' penchant for abuse, and Pam's realization during college that she is attracted to women. Equals Wendy Ross Hogarth equals Wendy Ross Hogarth, portrayed by Robin Weigert, is a doctor and Jerry Hogarth's wife, whom Hogarth is divorcing. Equals Reuben equals Reuben, portrayed by Kieran Mulcair, is Jones' upstairs neighbor and the twin brother of Robin. He is later mind-controlled to kill himself by Kilgrave. Equals Oscar Clemens equals Oscar Clemens, portrayed by Clark Peters, is an NYPD detective. He is later killed by Will Simpson to keep him from getting the police involved in the search for Kilgrave. Equals Robin equals Robin, portrayed by Colby Minifie, is Jones' upstairs neighbor and the twin sister of Reuben. Claire. Claire, portrayed by Danielle Filland, is a cellist and a victim of Kilgrave who becomes a member of a support group established by Jones. Emma. Emma, portrayed by Gillian Glasgow, is an actress and a victim of Kilgrave who becomes a member of a support group established by Jones. Jackson. Jackson, portrayed by Ryan Farrell, is a victim of Kilgrave who becomes a member of a support group established by Jones. Donald. Donald, portrayed by Paul Price, is a victim of Kilgrave who becomes a member of a support group established by Jones. Louise Thompson. Louise Thompson, portrayed by Lisa Emery, is Kilgrave's mother. She is later forced to commit suicide by Kilgrave. Albert Thompson. Albert Thompson, portrayed by Michael Saberi, is Kilgrave's father. Guest characters. The following is a supplementary list of recurring guest stars that appear in lesser roles or make significant cameo appearances. The characters are listed, in order of appearance on the show, by the other MCU media a season in which they first appeared. Introduced in other TV series. Brett Mahoney, portrayed by Royce Johnson, first appears in Season 1, a sergeant in the NYPD. Claire Temple, portrayed by Rosario Dawson, first appears in Season 1, a nurse in Hell's Kitchen. Introduced in Season 1. Roy Healy, portrayed by Joseph Rania, a bartender working for Cage. Nicole, portrayed by Nicole Yannetti, an intern on Trish Walker's talk show. Reva Connors, portrayed by Parisa Fitzhenley, Cage's wife, who was killed by Jones under Kilgrave's control. Dorothy Walker, portrayed by Rebecca De Mornay, Trish Walker's abusive mother and talent agent who becomes Jessica's foster mother when she was young. Elisa Jones, portrayed by Miriam Shaw, Jessica's mother who was killed in a car crash when she was young. Brian Jones, portrayed by James Colby, Jessica's father who was killed in a car crash when she was young. Philip Jones, portrayed by Billy McFadden, Jessica's younger brother who was killed in a car crash when she was young. Len Sirks, portrayed by Brett Azar, a loan shark who Jessica and Cage encounter during a case. Kozlov, portrayed by Thomas Kopachi, a doctor who ran the program that gave Simpson his experimental pills. Samantha Reyes, portrayed by Michelle Hurd, a district attorney. Stan Lee makes a cameo appearance through and on-set photograph, the same one seen in Daredevil. In Iron Fist, Lee's character is identified as NYPD Captain Irving Forbush. See also Daredevil casting characters, Luke Cage casting characters, Iron Fist casting characters, The Defenders casting characters. Season 1. Full cast and crew of Jessica Jones at IMDb.